Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Janet Krack and I am a third generation member of this UU congregation. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome everyone to this very special occasion, the installation of our minister, Rev Kristina Church. We are delighted to have had the Presque bell ringers with us today, as well as the members of the Erie Philharmonic Youth Chorale and former ministers of our congregation. It's so good to see you. Several of Rev Kristina's mentors have joined us today. What an opportunity for all of us in Erie to become acquainted with the good people who have influenced Rev Kristina's path to being our minister. Members of our congregation have been preparing for all of this for you as our very special guests. How could we make this day stand out? As well as celebrating our 125th anniversary. So we got out our old copper vase from our old church and had it polished brightly to shine on this day. The candelabra, which we only use on Christmas Eve and for special weddings, we got that out of the back of the closet, put it all in order and got candles for it, just to be very celebratory. We've been cleaning and painting and mowing and weeding and planning for this special celebration for many months. We even arranged to have a especially sunny day today. And now here we are, congregational members, visiting dignitaries, guests, and our friends joining us on Zoom. Thank you all for being here. We are ready to celebrate. Let's enjoy this installation of Rev Kristina together.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolfe. I serve as Congregational Life Staff for the Central East region. If you are not a Unitarian Universalist and don't know what that means, it kind of means I'm like a bishop, but I don't have any power whatsoever. It is a great joy to be with this congregation. I have been in this role for 5 years, and I've witnessed this congregation go through some challenges in ministry and going through some process of discovery to finding Rev Kristina and engaging and embracing in this celebration of this installation. And so for all of the work that I know that this congregation and community has done to make it to this moment, I offer my gratitude and my blessing. What we need are congregations that show up. And so I come offering blessings and greetings from the over 860 Unitarian Universalist congregations across this continent and across the world. As we gather in this day, may you know that you are not alone. We are Unitarian Universalists, infinitely diverse, which is such an amazing gift. And our own Erie brand of Unitarian Universalism is needed in the world. May you carry this gift of this day in all the days to come. May you know that we are glad you are here. Blessings and greetings.
The ritual of welcoming and honoring ancestors is an ancient spiritual practice found in many cultures and traditions. Thus, we begin this ceremony with recognizing and calling on our ancestors for their presence and their blessing.
From our histories, our ancestors call to us, asking whence we come and how and whither. We are grateful for their gifts, their lessons, and their challenges, calling us into accountability and responsibility to fulfill their hopes and aspirations for what they dreamed be ours to do. And we invoke their presence here now. We call on you, O ancestors of this place and all the places we come from, all the way back through Africa, through the creation of the world, and unto the stars.
We call on you, O ancestors of our blood and bone and breath, and of the spirit of all life. We call upon you, ancestors of all the peoples who have inhabited this place, those who strove to build beloved community, representing diverse cultures and traditions, especially the indigenous communities of the Erie and Seneca and other peoples known and unknown, whose traditional lands we live upon.
We call upon you, our activist ancestors, those who struggled and fought and died for justice and the freedom and liberation of all people, and who challenge us to honor the fullness of each and every human being.
We call upon you, early Unitarian and Universalist lay people and ministers who brought forth and built our faith traditions here in Pennsylvania.
We call on you, beloved ancestors of the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Erie, who dreamed, birthed, and nurtured this congregation and this community into being.
We call upon you, our beloved ministerial ancestors, who taught us and handed down the passionate fires of faith and of hope, which are kindled in the chalices of our own ministries.
We welcome you, O great cloud of witnesses, to join us here and now for the installation of Rev Kristina Church. O ancestors, we ask you to bless this ministry, this sacred covenant between this minister and this congregation, so that they may grow together in wisdom and strength to do the work of our faith in this world. Bless them and bless us, that we may lift each other's burdens and be guided in our paths.
We ask all gathered here and everywhere to please join us in saying, "Ancestors, be with us and bless us."
Ancestors, be with us and bless us. The ancestors are with us and we are blessed.
As many of you may have noticed, we have a special guest with us in the sanctuary this morning. We are honored and excited to host the General Assembly Chalice, used each year at our national gathering of UUs at the end of June. The Chalice will be traveling around one local congregation before our General Assembly in Pittsburgh. And now I'm going to invite Rafa up here to light the chalice while I say these words. May the candle flames we light be to us symbols of our forebears and the Unitarian and Universalist traditions to which they were devoted. May the flames be to us symbols of the torch that is passed from hand to hand and life to life. May unity and peace abide within us. May wholeness and joy touch our hearts. May kindness and compassion fill our universe and reverence fill our days. May we see the light that shines in all.
125 years ago, a small group of Unitarians, about to become Unitarians, gathered together downtown, and I'm sure they went through a lot more than just writing a bond of union, but this was one of the results. And if you would just join with me, please, in saying the bond of union that is now 125 years old and has been said frequently over the past century and a quarter. We unite ourselves together. Please stand. I'm sorry. Let's start over. Please stand. This is official. We unite ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion, as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, believing that we might thereby prove helpful one to another and promote the cause of truth, righteousness, and love in the world. Please be seated. Thank you.
More recently, in the classrooms of this church, I am the director of religious education, and in the classrooms, the teachers and I have been talking about the bond of union to the youth and asking them to just explore it, read it, and ask them what it means to them, and have their individual bond of union. And this is also something that we're going to keep exploring in years to come. But recently, a children's bond of union was put together by Rafa and Cassie, two of our youth, and I'm going to invite them up here now to share that with you.
One day, someday, believe. One day, may we all set our hearts ablaze. One day, may we show each other the true side of us, and show that we are more than what we may see at first glance. For we will accept each other, and we will join together to explore and understand one another, to learn and discover who we are as a community, as a world, as a population of similar and different people who have grown to coexist with and love each other. We will never stop growing, never stop exploring, and those around us will never stop growing with us and helping us to learn, to discover, because we are curious.
I am not Reid McFarlane. I am J. Beebe, one of Reid's congregants from those days. He sends greetings from himself and Andrea from Trade Lake, Wisconsin, and has asked me to read this memory. Congratulations on your 125th anniversary as a liberal religious light in the Erie community. The biblical image that comes to mind is a voice crying in the wilderness. You are and have been a refuge of reason, progressive religious thought, and a graduate school for religious seekers. I have always marveled that your bond of union, written in 1898, was so avowedly progressive and timeless. Serving this congregation certainly was the major highlight of my life, and participation for 5 years in the life of this congregation was a real joy. Looking back on it now, I certainly was too young and immature to be much of a traditional minister. Theological education did not teach us much, and certainly not how to run a mimeograph machine. That I learned from Ann Beebe, my mother. This congregation did help me through a divorce, and your reputation attracted the love of my life, Andrea. Keep watering this little plant that has grown from religious roots in the Enlightenment. the same roots that sprouted into the American Revolution. The idea that we are not victims of some original sin, but responsible actors in building a better world in the here and now. That we are social animals responsible to and for each other. And that means continually examining our political and ethical behavior. Again, congratulations for keeping this still small voice alive and well in Erie.
And I am not Terry Keim. Good day for subs. She did ask me to say that she regrets that she can't be here with all of us, but she's currently visiting a friend in England, so she is with us in spirit and joy for this wonderful double celebration. And these are her words. It is a privilege and delight to be able to share with you on this special occasion. When I think about my time with this congregation, my first settled ministry, I find myself remembering people more than events. I can see the Henrys, Louis and Marion, whose warm hug and greeting to me when I was first candidating here touched me so deeply and has stayed with me all these years. And Barry Thomas painting the church doors purple, one of my favorite colors, as a welcome as well. I think of all the special ceremonies, child dedications, weddings, memorial services, welcoming new members, held in the beautiful sanctuary with the lovely sculpture of branches Fred Beebe created, and how he would amaze us all with his unique flower arrangements on a Sunday. I remember Ruth Craig's poems and Walter Schroth's wry humor. I can see Gordon Way, Doug Russell, Howard Krack, and myself at the new sign they installed along the highway declaring Unitarian Universalist congregation rather than society. I remember Sue and Ernie Woods constructing a tiny private office for me in the original building and our board meetings in the small space left over in that room. I see Peggy Richardson playing the piano, as well as Janet and Jan, and Bob Rhodes leading the choir in a lovely sung benediction. I remember Deb Cable's mom and aunt, Tippy and Betty, one year wearing matching blinking lanterns, I believe, necklaces, to the service, and I recall Mary Beth's lovely smile. I think of the building expansion project and our blessing of the memories the older parts of the building held, and our blessing of the new space as we moved back in after our time at the Jewish temple, and having John Barron's, then UUA president, as one of the speakers at the formal dedication event. I look back happily on the inclusion of a founding stone for the Erie Universalist congregation, the forerunner of the Erie Unitarian one. All our shared tears of joy and sadness are with me when I look back at my years with this very special congregation. You loved me into being a Unitarian Universalist minister, and I will always be grateful to you for that blessing. These memories are such a tiny bit of all I hold dear from my time with you. Time touched by wonderful, amazing people I feel blessed to have known, and many to still know. Members and friends who made this church the warm and welcoming place it was when I came here. Those who generously supported it over the years and jumped in and got things done. People who loved one another and this amazing liberal faith we have been entrusted with. And it will be all of you, members and friends here today, the children and grandchildren you raise in this faith, and those you kindly welcome in who I know will keep that spirit alive for many, many years to come.
But it's a joy to be with all of you today. And I really appreciate all the names that have come forth from the other speakers. And one thing I want to leave with you is that we should all become good ancestors. we should all become good ancestors so that sometime down the road they'll remember us. And even if they don't remember us, they will understand the inertia of love that continues to flow from this congregation. I served this church from 2005 to 2015, and of all things, I first met the search committee in May of 2005, and it was a whirlwind courtship, and I got here September of 2005, and a lot of people brought me here, so I'm so grateful. I want to say one of the things that I've used in this very spot when I've done weddings is that I ask the bride and the groom, or the groom and the groom and the bride, or whomever, do you promise to create a home where that is the center but not the boundary of your love? And so let this be the center and not the boundary of your love. And Rev Kristina sent me an email, and it said I had to speak 2 hours. Then I reread it. Then I reread it, and it said 2 minutes. So some of you know my time here. I'm very grateful for all the things that have happened. I just want to quickly share that in my earlier days, when I was strong enough, I would pick up these pieces of this DS and I'd spread them around and do all kinds of things, very flexible. And I used to move the chairs around in a circle, and some people complained about that. But, and then I remember when we bought these chairs here. Now, our old chairs went to Jan Woods' museum. Where's Jan? Okay. So we've got some provenance there, yes. Also, they sent 4 different chairs to us because we requested them. And then when we decided on these, we decided to send them back. But I've used my 2 minutes already, but what I want to share is that on June the 6th, 2006, I came through the door, Nancy Lori came through the door, and there was paper stapled to the doors that said our building had been condemned. If that wouldn't hurt. What the story was about 5 feet high all the way around here. The carpenter ants and the water had rotted them out. Our Wiccan group, a fellow named Rich Conkle, he came and he built an I-beam right through there, and it had buttresses going off to the side and coming down again, and they cut this out like an umbrella, and then they tried to figure out, can we do the bottom part here? Al Richardson can tell you meticulously what this is all about. But they decided they couldn't do it. So they had to put these glue lamps. You see how these are different? So just realize that this church continues to be rebuilt. So remember, this is the center, but not the boundary of love for this congregation. And then also I want to say that Rev Kristina, when you came to preach or teach and speak at the PFLAG meeting at Chautauqua Institution, when you were done, I said deep in my heart that the UU Church in Erie is in good hands.
It's good to be here. The last time I stood in your pulpit, I quoted a Nobel Prize recipient who wrote, "For all that has been, thanks. For all that shall be, yes."
Today's celebration is one of gratitude for 125 years of commitment leading up to this moment. And it is a time of dreaming of what shall yet be, installing a new minister, Rev Kristina, and planning for a shared future. A time of thanks and a time of yes. Reflecting on my ministry with you, what stands out is how well this congregation continues to embody a gratitude for what came before while looking toward a brighter future, even when the going was tough. I was reminded regularly of the innumerable ways you willingly committed precious resources, energy, creativity for generations with one overarching, discernible goal: sustaining and growing this place that it might endure as a community where progressive ideas and beliefs can have a permanent home and where every person is valued. Running a close second place was a delicate balancing, encouraging spiritual growth in its many forms, tending to the deepest questions of our heart, all while recognizing that the needs of the world are not dismissed as someone else's problems. Week after week, month after month, members and friends work together to balance mind and heart and spirit with current politics and social responsibility. For 125 years, you've done just that and done it well. One thing I carry with me from my time with you is how committed this congregation is to being a vital, active, and compassionate presence in the greater area of Erie. My hunch is that Erie continues to need this vibrant Unitarian Universalist congregation, a congregation willing to host the hard conversations, to support marginalized people, to open those front doors to diverse music and dialogues, to joy and sorrow, to a variety of beliefs and ways of thinking, to members and friends, and to all those who may one day be lucky enough to find this community. Erie is lucky to have you as a congregation and lucky to have Kristina. May the next months and years be a leaning into an inspired yes for what may come, and the next 125 years a reason to say thanks. So may it be.
We are all called by the wind, the rushing water, the flower flies, the summer sun, called by the sidewalk, the playground, the laughing children, the streetlights, called by our appetites and gifts, our needs and challenges, called by the bottle, the needle, the powder, the pill, the game, the bet, the need, the want, the pain, the cure, the love, the hope, the dream, called by the spirit of love and hope and visions of God's purpose for our lives. We are all called. What do we choose? How do we answer? Reverend Natalie Fenimore.
Hello, beautiful people. Hello. I am Reverend Kate Walker, and I am currently serving as First Unitarian in Pittsburgh. But some of you may be scratching your head because I look familiar. Because I served the Meadville congregation from 1998 to 2008. So I have been blessed to be here in this beautiful community many times. And I'm just delighted to be back here. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm so grateful to be working with Reverend Kristina Church and your brilliant decision in calling her. And by way of introduction, I want to share that I fall in love easily. Easily. I almost proposed to a chef over a salmon. Such was the culinary explosion of flavors. The waitress clearly had experienced this before, as she patiently explained he was already married. And as the minister of Unitarian Universalist, as a minister, I have been blessed with hearing the stories of my congregants and strangers who discover what I do for a living, and then I fall in love with them. I hear their passion, I hear their struggles, I hear their challenges, I hear their blessings and their conundrums, and I look at them and I fall in love. I have loved people as I have borne witness at their death. I've loved children as I dedicate them and help them with their coming of age questions. I've loved couples when I get to officiate at their weddings in their passion of love. But let's be clear, I'm not talking about a Hallmark kind of love, full of sweetness and puppy eyes. No. I'm not talking about that brand new kind of love where your brain hormones are exploding and you can't think a single thought in your head other than this human being you've now become obsessed with, like something from a really bad movie. I am talking about the kind of love that kicks my butt on a good day. A kind of love that gets me out of my detailed, mundane life and the mindless acts that I tie together in that never-ending list of things to do. I am talking about the kind of love that pops me into a different existence. In one way, I'm talking about the kind of love that the Greeks offered, agape love. It's a philosophical attachment, a willingness of sacrifice, unconditional love. In another way, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm not talking about mental attachment or sacrifice or unconditional love. My love actually does have a couple conditions. We'll get to that. The Greeks, despite their obvious eternal capacity to talk and think endlessly, I don't know what else they were doing, but they actually didn't offer a word of the kind of love that I'm experiencing and that I'm talking about. It doesn't have a single word. And I keep falling in love again and again. I'm experiencing something. And when I try hard, when I remember to breathe and ease into it, I can fall in love with the person who takes my packages at the counter. I can fall in love with the person who bags my groceries or cooks my meals, even if it's, somebody that I'd really like to never meet again. We've all met chefs like that. Come on. I'm talking about a kind of love that calls me, pulls me in, pushes me hard. Sometimes gently. Mostly not so much. I'm talking about the kind of love that I fall for, like into an ocean of consciousness where the lines demarking you and me kind of fall away. The kind of love that reminds me of our shared humanity, of our shattered hearts, of moments of ridiculousness, of absurdity, and abundant joy. I'm not alone in this kind of powerful love. Even in extreme circumstances, there are stories about people who are oppressed and finding the humanity in their oppressor. Nelson Mandela, finding a tender connection with his jailers at Robben Island. Buddhist monks in extraordinary suffering and torturing who are able to practice the Tonglen meditation, the breathing in of suffering and breathing out of light. These stories seem like a lighthouse off in the darkness, but I aspire to reach it. I live in a world of privilege, safety. I'm not out in the rough seas of oppression. So who am I to say that kind of love is not attainable? I learn from those stories. And I know I need to practice falling into and out of myself and into another realm of existence, but let's be clear. Falling in love is not easy, is it? It's messy. We need navigators to help us on the way. Love takes work. Many, many years ago, I had a church member take me out for lunch one day after church. The member decided it was time to teach me a lesson about how to be a better minister. My colleagues, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah. It was a bit harsh. It was directive. It was controlling as we ate Chinese. I had a few colleagues who helped put me back together over the next few days. And I also knew it might not be the last time that some church member decided I needed to improve on my ministry and they wanted to help me figure that out. So I picked up my courage and I called that member and I asked for another lunch. Not at the Chinese place this time. I wanted to go to their home. And honestly, I was scared. I was. Would there be more lessons about my ministry? Would my voice be heard through their need to teach me? But my main question to the church member was this: am I your minister? To prepare, I imagined the member in their fullness, their story, their relationships, their joys and their failures in life that they had shared with me. I began to release my fears of being rejected and being thought of as an inadequate minister, because that's exactly how I felt at that moment. That feeling of being incompetent, and I'm pretty normal. I don't want to feel incompetent. None of us do. And layer by layer, I let go. I arrived, I parked, I breathed deeply. I imagined being part of the universe, one moment in time, and that this moment too would pass. I imagined being connected to my church member and their family. I imagined being connected to my family and my friends and my colleagues. And then I got out of the car and I walked into their home. The great Howard Thurman, you see that? I'm going to leave you hanging. The great Howard Thurman wrote this amazing piece. Here is a mystery, he wrote. If sweeping through the door of my heart, there moves continually a genuine love for you, it bypasses all your hate and all your indifference and gets through to you at your center. You are powerless to do anything about it. You may keep alive in devious ways the fires of your bitter heart, but they cannot get through to me. Underneath the surface of all the tension, something else is at work. It is utterly impossible for you to keep another from loving you. It is utterly impossible for you to keep another from loving you. Wow. Wow. I left that home about 2 hours later with love in my heart and a real joy in my ministry. I had gained the most important lesson in my ministry, that I could love my church members no matter what. That I could love my church members when they were being unkind to each other. I could love my church members even when they're being unkind to me. But on that day, I knew I could love that person who offered their love in return. I began my UU ministry with a whole new life-altering commitment to my Unitarian Universalist faith. And let me be clear about this. I was raised Unitarian Universalist. I'm a double UU preacher's kid. Yeah, it's everywhere. But I was raised in a generation. It is. I was raised in a generation, though, that we lacked a center in our faith. Well, I had trees, I had nature, I had the expanse of the universe, but I actually had to go to seminary to discover I was raised a transcendentalist. I was not raised with any clear spoken or written values. Well, okay, well, there's, the transcendentalist again, but yes. But there were no principles when I was being raised. Yes, the 6 and 7 principles were in the bylaws, and the various versions of the principles had been around since the 19th century. They had been swimming around in our faith the whole time I was growing up, but they weren't embedded in any explicit way. That was for the next generation, right after me. The principles and the sources were finally centered. They were put into the curriculum and worship services, along with lighting the chalice and the flower communion. But here's the thing. The principles were embedded in me anyway. Just not explicitly. They were in the implicit life, the null curriculum for my seminary friends. They were there in the spaces in between. They were there and taught with me throughout my years of growing up. And when I finally did pay attention to the principles, and you know when that was? It was the gray hymnal. It was the gray hymnal when they were put in the front of the gray hymnal, and suddenly I was like, oh, where'd that come from? And suddenly I realized as I read them that they were as much a part of me as Old Hundredth. However, I was dumbstruck, completely confounded, that the current form of the principles, there is a complete absence of the most important thing that I thought should be done in word and deed. Love. Love. Love is not in the current list. Just not there. It's a clear message. Is love really not that important? You guys think it is. It's in that bond that you recited. Very glad to see that. When I was a teenager, right on developmental schedule, I rebelled. And since I was pretty far left, I went right. And I went looking for love. I went to the Christian evangelical right. And it was really helped by a green-eyed brunette named Keith. We met in early June when I was 16 years old on a Greyhound bus between Chicago and Denver. Doesn't that sound like a great song? That's not actually fundamentally important to the story. You have to get me with a little scotch for that one. But what is important is that by the end of the summer, I had converted to being a born-again Christian. I had converted because they talked, they preached, they sang, they prayed, and they explicitly taught about love. It was everywhere. And my 16-year-old broken heart, suffering human being needed that love. I had a rough time in high school. My mom and both my older brothers were very ill. My parents had divorced, and I had to be the adult, sane one in the family. And frankly, I needed a lot of love. But at that time, our Unitarian Universalist faith did not have it for a lot of reasons. But they just did not have the kind of love that my broken family needed. I needed the kind of love that felt our pain, that saw our humanities, that heard our cries and showed up on the doorstep. I needed service and generosity and a path to transformation from our despair. And the evangelicals promised it. They promised love. I went for it. Why not? Okay, it took me 2 years before I realized that their love promises came with a lot of conditions and, some a little hypocrisy. Despite the preaching, the teaching, the singing, and the praying, and the judging, which actually impacted Unitarian Universalists and my entire family. Okay, back to Unitarian Universalist by the time I was 18, right on developmental schedule. But I was still looking for the love. I was still looking for the love that I so desperately needed. Don't we all? Don't we all? So you know where I found it? In the youth. It was in the youth group room. In my mid-20s, I became a volunteer youth advisor. And that's where I found the kind of love that I thought this faith needed at the center. It was with the youth and their vulnerability, their strength, their creativity, their courage. They showed me what love really looks and feels like, a kind of a love that the Greeks never imagined because they probably never sat down with the youth. Yeah. They showed me what an adult UU faith really needs to be. So here we are in the 21st century, my beloved. National campaign side of love, yes, working hard for a radical kind of love of inclusion and hospitality, the love that always brings in those who are on the margins, desperate to know that they are loved abundantly. Are there, seriously, some boundaries that need to be fit? Of course there are. We act with love, which means we're not cruel to one another. We act and we speak and we sing with love, which means we expect that of each other. And frankly, when I first read those proposed changes last fall, when they hit the internet last fall, those changes to the principles and sources, my heart leapt. It leapt because finally love was at the center of our faith, but it is there surrounded by all those gorgeous ways of being, of justice and equity and pluralism, transformation and interdependence, all rotating, and like this beautiful sun in the middle and all the stars around it. They even came up with a diagram. A diagram. Yes. I thought that's beautiful. It is beautiful. That interconnected web of our values and our covenants. What are we called for, my beloved? Reverend Natalie Fenimore said, my beloved, we are called. We are called. Each and every one of us. And you, Erie people, are called. You are called, Reverend. You are called, and you have been called by them. And I'm going to take a leap of faith here. It's to love. And putting it at the center of our faith. Love. There's no hope without love. There's no life without love. There's no community without love. And frankly, it's really difficult to clean up our messes without love. So when we break those covenants, we can bring ourselves back in with love. So as you have this fine day of installation and celebration, I ask, how are you going to answer that call? Out of all the possibilities, how are you going to respond to the call of life? What will this congregation look like in the next 125 years? What will it feel like? What is it going to sing and pray about here on this coastline? What's your response, good people? I want to hear it down in Pittsburgh. I'll tell you that. Blessed be and amen.
Greetings. It's so wonderful to be here with you. I haven't been with you since, I think, 1994, 1993. I'm Mary Gregoria, Christina's colleague in UU ministry, and also her spiritual director. For all ministers, seminary and then ministry is a cauldron of change, of transformation, preparing us to be present with our whole selves, and then present with you, our spiritual companions and our communities, during all of life's transformations, those unpredictable ones, as well as the ones that we do have an idea are coming down the line. In this service of installation, you are committing to deepening your relationship with one another as congregation and minister. This relationship is also a cauldron of transformation, of love's vision of justice and belonging, calling all of you to be open and fully alive with each other. Kristina shares that during seminary's time of transformation, she was comforted and guided by the song, "I Know This Rose Will Open." And I'm going to invite you to join with me in the words of that song now. And so I invite you to close your eyes. And if you'd like to bring your hands up to your heart area, because we are talking about love here, to say to yourself quietly, "I know this rose will open." And breathe that into every cell of your body, the beautiful rose of your own heart. I know this rose will open. A rose dreaming of opening. Life's dream singing through you, singing through all of us, singing through Kristina and the dream of UU ministry, singing in your congregation, dreaming of blooming together, opening to your deepest gifts and your deepest, wisest self, opening in wholeness. And daring to go on to the second line, I know my fear will burn away. I know my fear will burn away. Breathing into your beautiful heart. All of us resist transformations, changes, journeys into the unknown, uprooting family, supporting one another in uprooting that which no longer celebrates life. Breathing with kindness towards yourself and kindness toward one another. And singing to your beautiful heart, I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. For you as a congregation and minister, a spiritual community in this time of transformation, may you listen and trust the voice that sings in your heart. Trusting the wise silence. Trusting the power of love to rise above fear. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. And coming back at your own pace. Thank you.
This day has been a long time coming. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the authority and privilege of calling ministers rests solely with the congregation. In 2020, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we hired you as our half-time contract minister. You initially served us from your home in Buffalo, New York, in a virtual ministry that happened, as you described it, from the dining room table. Slowly, we got to know each other and established trust, and despite the obstacles and challenges of virtual shared ministry in a pandemic. In 2021, after a lengthy discernment and negotiation process, we voted unanimously to call you as our settled minister. Since then, you and your family have moved to Erie, and you have been serving our congregation for nearly 2 years as our settled minister. The happy event of your installation was delayed by the continuing pandemic, but this unavoidable delay now results in a double joy as we celebrate our 125th anniversary as a congregation and recognize your ongoing call to serve and accompany us. You have spent long years preparing for ministry, for this time and place. And today, we honor all our sibling congregations that helped you grow into the minister that you are. We recognize and thank your home congregation, the UU Church of Buffalo, who sponsored your time in seminary. Your internship congregation, the UU Church of Amherst, New York, who contributed greatly to your formation. Your first professional ministry at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Hamburg, New York, and our siblings in our first year of the pandemic at the First Unitarian Society of Westchester in Hastings-on-Hudson, New York. All of them are part of your journey and ours, a journey of shared ministry that weaves together all of our stories as we formalize this commitment together. Now, on this day, we officially install you as our minister to live and to serve, to learn and love alongside us. Rev Kristina, are you willing to undertake the commitments of this ministry? Will you make a formal and public commitment to accompany us, guide us, challenge us, and inspire us as the settled minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie?
I will, but like any nervous bride, I forgot my vows down in my chair, so I have to go and get them.
Do you have words, clearly you do, that you would like to say to this congregation? Promises do you undertake today?
I do. Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie, I accept this honor with a full heart, and I promise to continue to learn and respect your history and your unique congregational story as we go. I promise to listen with the intent to understand, as our covenant states. I promise to keep learning and growing as a religious leader and to bring inspiration from the wider movement and the wider world to share with you here in our congregation. I promise to continue earning your trust by owning my mistakes and holding healthy ministerial boundaries. I promise to always serve you to the best of my ability, always leading with love at the center, and always from my heart.
So members of this Erie congregation, would you please rise and offer your promises to Rev Kristina, and you will find those on the back of your order of service. We promise to support you and your family and support your continued growth as a professional clergy person. We promise to extend appreciation for your hard work, to understand the need for our time away for rest, and offer grace in times of anxiety and stress.
We promise to bring our enthusiasm, our joy, and our hope to this community, and to recognize the shared work of the congregation is for all of us, never for our minister alone. We promise to listen with the intent to understand and to trust you to do the same for us. We promise to see the best in you as you have vowed to see us in our best light. We promise to offer you respect as a human being with inherent dignity and worthiness. We promise to care for you as you care for us in a mutual bond of faithful service to our ideals of truth, righteousness, and love in the world. Thank you. At this time, I invite all of the other Unitarian Universalists present to stand alongside the members of this congregation and your support of Rev Kristina and the UU congregation of Erie through the mutual ties of our larger faith. What promises do you make today? We promise to support and encourage the shared ministry of Rev Kristina and the UU congregation of Erie, offering guidance, shared resources, and solidarity with them as they move into the future together. Reverend Kristina, by the authority accorded to me as President of the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie, I now declare that you are officially installed as our settled minister. Long may our shared ministry thrive.
Well, it's traditional to exchange gifts at a nuptial celebration, and so Nancy, our board president here, our wonderful board president, asked me, "What do you think? What size of a table will we need for the gifts?" And I thought, pretty big table for my gift. So I didn't put it on a table. I just brought it. But Nancy, if you would unwrap it, this is my gift to you. So since we've been living together for 2 years, I kind of know what kind of kitchen stuff and what kind of furniture we might need. So this was a practical gift, because in the past few months, I've heard, go ahead. I've heard people saying, we could use some more little tables around here. And so I found a little table that I thought was really lovely and that we could use around here. So this is my gift to you.
So we have a little something for you as well. And so we thought about colors, we thought about style, and we think this might fit. So,
you can just, how nice. Ooh. Beautiful stole.
And there's a message inside.
The message inside says, "To Rev Kristina Church from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie, may we inspire, connect, and act together with love." And then the date embroidered in. How beautiful. Thank you so much. I will wear it always, remembering our ministry and honoring you.
Love it. Of all the things I love about church, what I love best is how church invites us to regularly stop, to take stock of what matters most, and clamors for our attention, out of all the clamors for our attention, what matters most, and then to reorient ourselves, drawing on what emerges from those sacred moments of pause. So I'm so deeply honored today to have been offered to invite it along with our colleague Michele to offer what's called the charge to the minister. The charge is really a reminder to you to stop and to reconnect with the things that need your attention most, especially as you enter this next stage of your ministry. Now, I can imagine you might be holding your breath, wondering, what new thing will Michele and Nicolene ask me to do among all the other things? But that's not where I'm heading. In fact, what I'm going to invite you to pay attention to most is more about being rather than doing. And here's what I mean. I noticed two obvious points of connection when I first began serving as your mentor, soon after you received preliminary fellowship. First off, both of us have been trained as social workers. And it seemed to me that in my experience, being a social worker has a lot to do with making ourselves relatively invisible. We're asked to orient ourselves primarily toward the needs and the flourishing of the other. And though ministry, like social work, is also about service, it's different in at least one significant way. As minister, you are required to be eminently visible. People will look to you and your example to relight their spark of hope, to model how awe and wonder are still possible despite everything, and to demonstrate by your very being that this adventure of Unitarian Universalism transforms lives and so is deeply of worth. And so my first invitation to you is to pay attention to whatever awakens your own capacity for amazement, your own excitement and imagination, and all that nourishes your intuitively felt sense of purpose. You will minister best when you live close to your experiences of wonder and aliveness.
The other point of connection is that we both serve our congregations part-time. It can be easy to assume that part-time ministry is just like full-time ministry, only with less hours to get everything done. The truth is, though, the part-time minister actually offers a special kind of gift to the congregation because there is so much that does not fall to you to do. The congregation is invited to be a true partner in ministry. For part-time ministry to work well, however, you as minister need to honor your strengths and ground your leadership in your gifts. Only by doing this will you leave lots of spaciousness around which the congregation can hear its own call.
Kristina, where Nicolene is a guiding presence in these first years of ministry, it was my honor to be part of your discernment and formation as a minister. All those hours seated at the little round table in my office, where you wrestled and learned and celebrated, learning to love an internship congregation that you would ultimately leave, and clarifying your love for our faith. And all of that has brought you here to this moment. Today is the formalization of a bond that you've already forged, a commitment you have already made. Love has brought you to this place. So look out at those gathered here to bear witness to this moment. All of us are here to celebrate and encourage this union. Now, this bond includes three entities: you as the minister, the congregation, and covenant with a capital C, the sacred promise you enact and the life that is larger than any of us. You and the congregation exist in service to covenant, not to meet people's needs or to be observed doing good things. You and your congregation are here to live into the possibility of wholeness with individual dignity and wonder, and yes, responsibility. I really like Alice Blair Wesley's interpretation of the covenant that our spiritual ancestors in the 17th century made when they arrived in an unfamiliar place, not knowing if new ways would be better or at least as good as the old ways, and knowing that it would be impossible to go back to what was known and familiar. And so, in case you don't quite remember those words, here they are. We pledge to walk together in the ways of truth and affection as best we understand them now, or will learn them in days to come, that we and our children might be fulfilled, and that we might speak to the world in words and actions of peace and goodwill. You'll notice that every part of that covenant is about weaving relationships. There is no mention of meetings and deadlines and expectations. There is no mention of meetings and deadlines. Your most important work here is to live what it means to journey together in ways of truth and affection. And that's it. Anything else must be in the service of truth and affection. And so let me close my portion with a recent dream. I'm taking dream analysis courses, and so it's all about the dreams. We were in a car, and you were driving, and the road was full of potholes, which you circumnavigated with skill. When we got to my house, you gave me a circle skirt that you had made with the tiers of the skirt in various textures and colors of the rainbow. Well, it was almost a skirt. You hadn't cut out the middle part for it to be able to be worn. And I realized that only I could cut the center where I would fit and could wear the beautiful boundaried colors out into the world. Well, I don't think one needs to be Carl Jung to get to the message. You are in the driver's seat of your call to ministry, your answer to that call. And you are navigating the detours and the pitfalls with skill. Your life is a celebration of color And it is up to you to make the space actually cut into the fabric and wear your colorful, knowledgeable, vibrant, loving self in a full circle of boundaried beauty.
One short last thing. In order to be that person who continues to hear your call and yet stay skillful as you navigate those roads, you will need time. Time for reflection, time for your imagination to go dormant and then waken again, time to integrate new learnings and process the losses that will inevitably come your way, because it is through having time to process and integrate that you will remain resilient, wise, and empathetic. So we invite you to pay attention to all the moments in which your ministry slows down and gives you the vital gift of time. And we want to close by offering you a blessing. Kristina, hear the words of Mary Oliver, poet beloved to many UUs, whose gift was to have learnt the blessings of being over doing.
You do not have to be good.
You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting.
You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine.
Meanwhile, the world goes on.
Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers.
Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again.
Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination.
Calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting.
Over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. May you know yourself whole and know yourself blessed.
I'm going to give you a hug.
Congratulations, UUs of Erie. Whoa. Yeah. Congratulations. My name's Joan Montagnes, and I bring greetings to you from the Unitarian Church, Unitarian Universalist Church in Buffalo, New York, which Kristina abandoned to follow her call to ministry. I am so excited to be here with you. I am so excited to be here with you sharing this historic moment. I hope by now you are feeling really charged up. I hope by now, with all the music welcoming, announcing, greeting, calling, invoking, bonding, offering, remembering, preaching, blessing, installing, and gifting, you are feeling really charged up and excited to start out on your continuing journey of shared ministry. I bet you are feeling so charged up and rearing to go that you can barely sit still for another minute of festivities. Yeah. But before we're done today, before Rev Kristina can put a big bow on the celebration with the benediction, before you can set up on another chapter of your journey in an abiding relationship of shared ministry full of joy and empowerment and creativity, before you can head out on your continuing journey, we have one last task, one last bit of charging, the charge to you, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie. This is where I come in. I have been asked to charge you. At the very end of this gorgeous service, replete with a cast of thousands, I've been asked to get you all electrified about your continuing journey. And given that we've been here for about an hour and a half so far. I'm going to make this as short and sweet as I can do it, but being a minister and long-winded by nature, my short, sweet message comes to you in count them, 3 parts. So hold on to your hats, here they come. First, UUs of Erie, I charge you to grow into your transformation together. We all know that nothing on heaven and earth stays stagnant. Change happens, growth happens, new ideas and structures happen. You may not like it, but change is inevitable. Promise yourselves that you will figure out how to grow together, how to love each other into all those changes that will present themselves along your journey. 2, UUs of Erie, I charge you to enter into a 2-way relationship of appropriate care with Reverend Kristina. Kristina, your minister, will love you more than you will ever know. She will put her heart, and soul into your relationship. But she will never be your friend. She is called to serve you and not share her innermost self with you. On occasion, both you and she will forget your boundaries. Both you and she will occasionally need to be reminded that Kristina serves you as a 3/4 time minister and not a 1.5 times minister. I'm looking at you. In the very best of relationships, partners give each other space to thrive. 3, UUs of Erie, I charge you to remember that you are not alone. Now let me get this number right. Where's sunshine? There you are. 860, did you say? Over 860 congregations are on this journey with you. Your local cluster of congregations is with you. The Central Eastern region is with you. The UUA is with you. So when conflict arises and the plans change and folks get squirmy and have inconvenient needs and the directions are not clear and things get uncomfortable, reach out, because you are not alone. You are never alone. Congratulations, UUs of Erie, for 125 years together, creating a vibrant, inclusive, religious community that inspires personal growth, offers connection through fellowship and service, and acts for peace and justice. Congratulations, UUs of Erie, for calling the Reverend Kristina Church as your minister. She is, as you know, caring, thoughtful, and generous, a consummate partner in shared ministry. Remember to continue to grow into change together. Take care of yourselves and each other because you are precious. And remember, above all else, you are not alone. You are never alone. Blessings for the journey.
Break down
thank you, and we hope you will join us for the festivities in a reception outside, just outside the doors in our Olympia Brown Room. Friends, may this time of celebrating our past lead us into an ever-deepening commitment to our future. May remembering those who came before move us to consider how we may be good ancestors to those who will arrive long after we've gone. May the promises that we have shared with each other today be honored for years to come. May many hands make light work as we move down the path of shared ministry together. And may we always know deep in our hearts that the best of times is now. May it be so. Amen and blessed be.
Thank you.